Hi everyone, welcome to Scavenger Art. My name is Katie Guthrie. I'm the director at Garden City Arts. We are coming to you from our makeshift studio in my basement. Since we're all staying home to make sure that everyone can stay safe, we wanted to come to you and bring you these really fun programs like Scavenger Art. There's a whole bunch more. You can find all that information on our website. So today, the theme is to create art using household materials. Things that you find in your kitchen, bathrooms, what have you, things you might not have thought could be used to make art. So, really fast, I just want to go through a few things with you. First, here's the project of the day. I'm going to show you how to make a polar bear, and I'm going to show you how to make a snail, a colorful snail. To make these items, we have to create our own material, and it's called cloud dough. It only takes 2 materials to make, and then color's optional if you want to make a colorful snail. And these are 2 ingredients that you can find in your home. The first is cornstarch. Okay, cornstarch works best. However, the theme of the day is to find things around your home, right? So if you don't have cornstarch, you can use flour. It doesn't work quite as well. I'll show you what it looks like. So this is the clay that is made with flour, and you can see it's a bit lumpy. It's hard to tell in the studio, but it's also a little dingy. It's a little yellow. This is the clay that we make with cornstarch. Okay, do you see how much smoother it is compared to this lumpy kind of piece of clay? Flour will work, it just doesn't work as well. The second ingredient you need is our binder. Okay, it's what we're using to bind together our base, which is the cornstarch. And the binder can be a lot of different things. The best thing is hair conditioner, but if you're in a pinch, you can use lotion. The cheaper the better, right? Don't go after your mom's expensive hair conditioner. She will not be happy with you. So remember, cheaper is just fine. Go for the cheap stuff. And then the other thing that you need would be your dyes to color the clay. You can use paint. This is tempera paint that I put in a ketchup bottle. If you're using tempera paint, no worries, you'll have to use a lot more than if you use food coloring, but it'll still do the job. It'll come out a little bit more pastel. The other thing you can use, and the thing I recommend, is the food coloring, and this is something that most people have in their kitchens, but maybe not all. So remember, you don't have to color your clay. You could just go with a good standard old polar bear if you want. We're going to talk about how to make our clay in just 1 second. The second portion of the video will be how to sculpt the clay. But really fast, I want to talk to you about some logistics of the class and some safety things. If you're using food coloring, it will dye your hands if you do not wear gloves. And I have my gloves running around here somewhere. Here's my gloves. I wear these only when I'm mixing the food coloring into my clay. And the reason for that is because the gloves are hard to work with, okay? So we're just using them when we're mixing colors. And another thing you want to have on hand would be baby wipes. This is messy. We're gonna get messy. If you don't have baby wipes, then it's gonna be really difficult for you to keep your area clean and to keep your hands clean. The other thing I would suggest, and this is for parents, I'm working on a mat today, so it's a surface I can pick up and go wash. If you are working on your kitchen table or a desk, I would highly recommend using parchment paper, taping it down, getting it nice and secure. It'll be easier cleanup for you afterwards. So now that I've gone through that, let's get started. Are you ready? I'm ready, I'm excited. So I'm gonna push these guys forward a little bit to keep them a little bit out of the way. And then we're going to make our clay. We don't need our colors for now. I'm gonna push those to the side. I only need my cornstarch and my binder or hair conditioner. I'm going to use another bowl, and I'm going to grab a spoon too. So make sure you have these materials on hand, these materials and tools on hand before you get started. The first thing I'm gonna do is grab a nice big chunk of binder of hair conditioner. Okay, once I have that, sorry for that loud sound. Once I have that in the bowl, I'm going to slowly start introducing my cornstarch. A good rule of thumb is to do about half and half. Half hair conditioner, half cornstarch. You might have to use a little bit more cornstarch if it's really sticky. If you notice that it's breaking into clumps and it's not holding its form, you need more binder, okay? So as you go, keep those two things in mind so you can alternate between the two and get to the right balance and have some really nice clay. I'm gonna put in 2 scoops, maybe even 3, of cornstarch. And then in my bowl, right now the ingredients are separate, but I'm going to use my spoon to start moving them around. I apologize for the video quality. I am by no means a professional at recording. I think this situation that we find ourselves in is really great because we're learning a lot of new things. We're kind of being forced to learn a lot of new things. Hopefully, by the end of April, I will be really good at making videos and they'll be a lot better when we get to that point. For now, sorry. So, I am stirring it up. I want to make sure that all of the cornstarch is kind of getting glued to that hair gel. Once that happens, I'm going to have to use my hands. A spoon will only get you so far, okay? So once I have all of the ingredients gathered, there's no ingredients left behind, or the ingredients that are kind of like, it's not a big deal. I'm going to take my finger, I'm going to start picking it up. Oh, actually, no, I can tell just before I even pick it up. If you look like this, do you see how I look like the clay monster now? If your fingers start looking like that, take a step back, grab more cornstarch. Okay, if it's way sticky like that, that means that you don't have nearly enough cornstarch. There's too much binder and it's not gonna come together. So before you even pick it up, use the back of your spoon and you can kind of like push that cornstarch into it. You can even like scoop it all around, break it up. I'm gonna try, there we go. Scoop it all around, cut it in half with your spoon and then pat it in. Okay, so you're gonna do that a few times and see if you can get a better balance or a better ratio of hair conditioner or binder to base or cornstarch. Okay, so you want about half base, half binder. Sometimes you're gonna have to use more binder. Sometimes you're gonna have to use more base. You're just gonna have to figure out based on your materials. If you're using flour, it is going to be, oh no, I dropped some of my clay. Also remember, this is messy. Your floors are gonna look pretty bad after this, so make sure you sweep up for your mom and dad. If you are using flour, you probably will notice that you need to use more binder. The flour seems to be a little bit more absorbent than the cornstarch. Okay, so this is coming together slowly, but do you notice how I'm turning more and more into the clay monster? That means I need more cornstarch, and that is off camera, so I'm gonna scoop it up. And I'm going to just kind of dust. Ooh, that wasn't dust, that was an avalanche. I'm gonna dust my clay with cornstarch and then continue kneading. When we knead, we kind of do these squishing motions. We want the clay to get squishy. We want it to come all together. I lost half of my clay, so I might have to make more. Thank goodness I have some on hand, or else our teddy bear, or polar bear I should say, would be really tiny. If you guys have pets at home, I'm sure they'll take care of the floor cleanup for you. My pet, who's lurking underneath the table, just took care of the parts I dropped. Now it's probably not great for them to eat, so you might want to scoop it up beforehand. Keep your pets safe. And now I'm going to grab all of my loose clay. I'm trying to salvage as much as possible since I lost half of it when I dropped it under the table. And there we go. Now you'll notice that your clay will start coming together. You won't have all those little pieces breaking off, okay? It'll start coming together and look more like a solid ball as opposed to a whole bunch of little teeny tiny clumps in the bottom of your bowl. Now, the test to know that it is ready to go is to create a ball, okay? we're going to use our hand in this circular motion, okay? We're gonna use the other hand to hold it steady. So one hand moves, one hand stays steady. And we're going to roll it. If we do that and you notice a whole bunch of cracks forming in your ball, it's not coming together, that means you probably need more hair conditioner. So I'm gonna take a little bit, I'm gonna put it in my hands. Again, I'm the clay monster. Are you a clay monster at home as well? Keep in mind, the cool thing about these videos is that you can pause, you can go back, you can fast forward through all of this if you don't want to listen to me, okay, and get to the good stuff, the sculpting. So keep in mind, that's kind of the cool thing about taking art classes from home. Now, I've got my clay too sticky, so I'm going to balance it out with just a little bit of cornstarch. This time I'm not going to have an avalanche, I'm going to have a dusting. And now I should have some really good clay. So it's still a little bit sticky, but that's okay. I have some old clay that I made beforehand that I'm going to combine so that I have enough clay. The old clay is probably a little dry. The new clay is a little sticky. When you roll them together, they'll balance each other out. So sticky and dry, rolling it together, or they'll just make a huge mess. You know, whenever you're demoing, if you ever decide to demonstrate a project to someone, you'll notice that everything goes wrong that can while you're recording. It never goes wrong when you're prepping. So if you have a ball of clay that's falling apart, no worries, just keep working, just keep swimming, right? Keep rolling. Keep going until it starts to come together again. If it crumbles on you, no worries, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just the nature of making alternative art supplies. It doesn't work quite like the real stuff, the real air dry clay, or the real clay that you find in the ground. So just keep working until you get a nice ball. So remember, we're taking one hand and doing a circular motion, holding the other one steady. Now, I'm going to show you really fast how to make some color clay. I'm going to leave the majority of my clay white because I'm going to show you how to make a polar bear. If you want to make a snail, a colorful snail, you're going to have to make another batch and you're going to have to introduce color. So you can start that if you want to, or you can pause the video, go back and repeat through the steps that we just went through. Okay, I'm going to put my clay to the side. I'm going to take a little tiny pinch of it, and I'm going to show you how to mix color into it. We're going to do a lot of this. Do you see me pinching? Pinch, 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 pinch. We're going to do a lot of pinching into the clay. The more you pinch, the more it distributes the color through the clay, and you'll get a nice, even distribution of color. And your white clay will turn whatever color you're adding. Because I am introducing color with my food coloring, I'm putting on my safety gear. Okay, I'm putting on my gloves. You can see I've already made a color with these gloves. I've used them before. You can use new gloves or old gloves. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow because I'm going to introduce that to my snail. So I put just a little tiny drop onto it. If you're using tempera paint, you're gonna have to use more. If you're using acrylic paint, add some water, mix it into the acrylic paint first, and then introduce it into the clay. Okay, so I'm squishing. Do you see me pinching? Now, do you see how hard it is for me to work with these gloves? It's really difficult. They kind of get in the way. So that's why we only use our gloves when we're mixing color. And I've just about got it evenly distributed. Okay, do you see there's still a few little white areas? Might be hard to see on camera, but you'll be able to see it at home. And I'm just mixing, mixing, mixing. I can do my ball, okay? With my hand, I'm going in big circles, holding the other one steady, and voila! I have a nice piece of yellow clay. I'm gonna set my gloves to the side for now, and I'm ready to start sculpting. But before I do that, look at this mess I made. Do you see it? It's messy. If your space is messy like this, let's clean it really fast, because otherwise our snail is gonna have white spots, okay? Or our bear is gonna look dusty. So I'm gonna grab a baby wipe and I'm gonna push all of this to the side. One tip I would give you is to get like a plastic plate that you can throw away And you can take all of those scraps and scrape them into the paper plate. You can do that directly into the trash can. That way you're not wasting materials. Once your area is clean, let's look at our hands. Are our hands dirty? Oh, mine are. I'm going to clean it off by kind of going right along my finger and getting all that clay off. Oh, I should say dough. It really is dough. I use the term clay kind of loosely. Okay, and once you have semi-clean hands, you might need another baby wipe. Once you have clean hands, now you could go and wash them. Personally, I don't wash my hands until the very end. I use baby wipes just so I don't have to get up and come back, but you can always wash them off if you want. Once you have clean hands, you're ready to start sculpting, and this is the fun part of the video. So, oh boy, my space got messy again. I'm gonna just wipe that off. Okay, so we're ready to get started. Now, I'm going to grab a clay that I tried to use to make a snail earlier, and I'm going to reform it. So if you have old clay that's been sitting there for a while, do you see all of the mess I just made? As I was squishing it, it started kind of shedding all those pieces. No worries, it's normal. Dry clay dries out really fast. Cloud dough, which we're making, dries out even faster. So in order to keep it from drying out, we're gonna take our conditioner, our hair conditioner, our binder, and we're gonna use a little bit on our hand. We're gonna put it on as if we were putting on lotion, but just staying on the palms of our hands. And then we're gonna grab it, grab all those little pieces. We don't wanna waste any clay. And squish it all back together. Remember, you can do the ball. You can use your table if you need to. Now, if you squish it, with my hand I'm squishing it. If you squish it and it's still shedding pieces, that means it still needs some conditioner mixed into it. That means the outside was nice and moist, but the inside is still dry. So I'm going to put some more conditioner on my hands. Maybe I'll squish it on the table, I'll flatten it into a coin, and that will get some of this clay and, some of the binder into the clay. It'll get it wet again. Do you see how I'm turning back into a clay monster? I told you this was messy. Whew. Okay, now we're gonna roll, 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 roll. And if you want to, if you're having a hard time with that, use the table. You're still doing this motion, but instead of using your hand as the surface that stays steady, you're using the table. So, that means the center was still wet. It was still dry. The outside was wet, but the center was dry. If this happens to you, no worries. Do you know what we do? We try again. We try until we get it. And like I said, if you're ever demoing this to someone, it's gonna happen when you're showing it to someone. It's not gonna happen when you are doing it on your own. Okay, some more binder. And I'm gonna squish it some more. Do you hear that squishy sound? Art makes all sorts of funny sounds. Okay, getting all of those scraps. And now I am finally ready to make our snail. Unless the clay decides to be a jerk again. Okay, so I have the start of a ball. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to make a coil really fast. We're going to pretend like our hands are really cold and we're trying to warm them up. We're going to move them back and forth. If you're new to this, maybe move them a little bit slower, okay? The harder you press them, the quicker you go, the longer and thinner your coil. The less pressure you put and the slower you go, the shorter your coil and the thicker it will be. We don't want a super skinny snail, we want kind of a thicker snail. So I'm gonna go a little bit slower. Now if you have trouble doing this little hand motion, put it on the table and roll it out on the table, okay? Whatever works best for you. You have to be pretty gentle, okay? If you aren't gentle with the clay, it might start cracking. It might start cracking regardless. If you have a crack, no worries. grab a little bit of conditioner on your hand, binder, and try it again. Just keep trying until you get it. And once you have a coil that is nice and even, if you notice like a little bump, go right on top of that bump and even it out. Once you have a coil that's nice and medium sized, it's not too thick and it's not too thin, then we're going to start our snail. Okay, we're going to start at one end and we're going to fold it so that it makes kind of what looks like a little hook. Okay, then we're going to keep going and going and going until we stop. We stop and have about a thumb left of clay. The reason we want that is because we're going to use this to create the head of our snail. Do you guys see that? I'm going to set the bear to the side for a while. He's going to be sidelined. Okay, so our snail is done as far as the shell goes. Now we're going to make the head. Now I'm going to use this little pinching motion. I think we talked about it earlier. I'm going to pinch on the top and the bottom to make his snout a little pointed, okay? Just like I did there. Now you can use tools like toothpicks or the ends of your spoon to create an opening for the mouth. Do you see how I am pushing? I'm gonna bring this up close. I'm pushing that right into his mouth. Now it looks like he's talking. If you want him to be quiet, you just pinch him together and then he'll just look like he's kind of a perturbed snail. Okay, perturbed, upset is what another word for that. Okay, so I have the head made. Now we're going to talk about joining pieces of clay together. If you want to join some yellow to our blue, we have to use our binder. Now, ceramicists who work with real clay use binder as well, but it's called a slip, okay? It's basically watered down clay. We're not using watered down clay, we're using hair conditioner because that's the binder in our cloud dough today. I'm taking the binder, I'm putting a little tiny bit on the top of his head where I want it to be, where I want to put his little yellow horns. I don't think they're really antennas, they're just kind of decorative pieces for our snail. Now, your teacher just did something silly. Look at my hands. Do you see all the blue that's on them? If I touch my yellow clay with blue in my hands, it's gonna make green. So, before I move on, I'm gonna take my baby wipe and I'm going to clean up my hands, okay? And then, after the snail's done, we'll move on to our polar bear. Okay, clean hands, almost. Are your hands clean? Make sure they're nice and clean before you touch a different color of clay. If you touch white clay, oof, you'll have a speckled bear. It'll have blue speckles. Okay, I have my yellow clay and I am going to roll it. Now, this clay might be a little dry, so I'm going to knead it a little bit. Remember how we knead it by doing the pinch pinch? I'm gonna roll it. If it makes a ball, then you're good. It's okay. If it doesn't, if it falls apart on you, like it did with the blue, you're gonna have to get some more binder and work it in. I'm going to make a coil. And when I make this coil, I'm using the palm of my hand. I'm gonna pinch off all that extra clay that I don't need. Do you see how tiny this coil is gonna be? That's because it's gonna be his little ear things. I'm going to make a U, an upside down U, a hill, and then I'm going to attach it to the top of my snail's head. Okay, I'm gonna push down in the middle and then you can use your fingers to do some little details. And now my snail has cute little antenna horns. Whatever they are, he has them now. Okay, so if you wanted to, you could take some pinches of white and we could make the eyes for our snail. The way you do that is you make a little tiny ball. You're gonna use your fingertip in the palm of your hand to make a little ball. Remember, if your clay's drying out, just knead it a little bit. It just needs to be bound back together. And then once you have a ball, you flatten it and into a coin. Do you see that? Okay, now I can take and break it into two parts so he has two eyes, or I could make another coin And there's my snail. He's got some eyes and he's got some horn ear things, and he is done. You can go back in with Sharpie and you can put the eyes back in. Keep in mind that this clay is not meant to last, unfortunately. So our beautiful creations today are gonna fall apart. This poor bear, if you see, oh, like I said, they're not meant to last. They will fall apart on you. He just lost a leg, okay? So it's more about the process rather than the finished product. It is what it is. We're still having fun and we're still learning things, so that's what matters. We're going to move on to our bear. Now, if you have yellow on your hands, wash, wash, wash. And then we're gonna come to our bear. We're gonna make this cute little guy. We're gonna move these snails off the screen. And we're gonna move the bear back on. Even though he's missing a leg now, no worries, we will build a new one. So, first thing I'm going to do is just gonna make sure that this clay is still nice. If I squeeze it in a whole bunch of cracks up here, then that means I need to work it a little bit more. So do that little scrunching thing, we're kneading. It's like when we're kneading with our fingers, but because it's a big clay, we're using our whole hands to knead it. And try making a coil. If that goes well, you're good. Try making a circle, woof. Try making a ball or a sphere. If you can do that, you're good. You're probably ready to go. So we're gonna talk about how to break this into smaller pieces. We're gonna use the claw. Do you see that? The claw. So we're gonna take 2 claws and you break your clay in half. So let's look at what that looks like with clay. See? Rah. So our one giant sphere of clay is now 2 smaller spheres or balls of clay. We're gonna set one ball to the side. We're gonna take the other one that's still in our hand, and we're gonna use the claw and break it into 2 parts. One of these is going to be his ball. Is going to be his head. Blah, blah, blah. The other one is going to be set aside for now. We're going to use that for details. So let's make this guy into a really nice ball. Remember, you can use the table if you want. You can use your hand. Sometimes when I'm trying to make a ball, it makes more of like a diamond. No worries. Just with your fingers, tap it down. Okay? Kind of make it more of a ball shape. His head is done, but his body is not. Let's do the body real fast. We're gonna make a nice big ball. I'm going to splat him down onto the ground so that his bottom is nice and flat. And then I'm gonna start forming the sides. Do you see how it's making kind of a gumdrop shape? Or a Hershey's Kiss shape? Or like a mountain shape? Ooh, that's too far off screen. Okay, there we go. Kind of is heavier at the bottom and gets taller as it comes to the top. That top point is where we're going to put his head. Now, remember, we're going to use our hair conditioner, our binder, as our slip or our glue or our joiner to make it all come together. There we go. So we have the start of our bear. If you feel like his bottom is a little too flat, you can come back in and kind of round the base. I like to do this little tapping motion a lot. Okay, there we go. He has a rounder bottom now. And now we're going to move on to all of our details. That's what this big chunk of clay is for. So we have ears, a nose, and arms and legs to do with just this little teeny tiny piece of clay. The details on the head doesn't take very much. So just take a little tiny pinch, do the claw, and take a little tiny pinch of clay. That's all you'll need to do the details. So I'm gonna roll it into a ball, and then I'm gonna break this ball into 3 smaller pieces. So claw. Now I have one medium-sized ball, and I have another medium-sized ball that I'm gonna break into 2 smaller pieces. These are gonna be for his ears. So let's make little tiny balls. Then I'm going to take these little tiny balls, and I'm going to flatten them into coins. So there's one, there's the other. Now, these circles are going to turn into semicircles when we push on the bottoms. do you see how now the bottom is nice and flat and the top remains nice and round? That is going to be his ears. If you don't get it the first time, that's okay. I like to hold it in my finger and then kind of round it out, doing a little tapping motion. And now I have 2 ears. I'm gonna make the nose really fast before we use the binder to join it all together. So, make a ball, and then I'm going to use my fingers to pinch the top and the bottom, and then I'm gonna use my other hand to pinch the sides. And we're gonna do that and make it look like a marshmallow, okay? A marshmallow is kind of a cylinder shape, and that's what we want for his nose. So it's kind of circular on the front, but the top and the bottom are nice and flat. Now, that did not join, that didn't stay on because I forgot an important part, the binder. So I'm gonna grab some of the binder, I'm gonna put right where his nose is gonna be, I'm gonna put some on the tops of his head, and I'm gonna start putting these pieces on. Okay, perfect, he's got ears, and look at him, he has a snout now. Do you see his little snout? It's a little bit easier to see if we look at him from profile. Okay, so he has all of his details on his head. Now we need to give this poor bear some arms and some legs. So this extra clay is what we're gonna use. We're gonna claw and break it into 2 pieces. One piece is gonna be used for his arms, and the other piece is gonna be used for his legs, okay? So I'm gonna make a ball first, and then I'm gonna make a coil. Remember, you can use the table to make your coil. Okay, so there's one coil down. Now I'm gonna do the other one. I think he has a blue spot on him. Yeah. And I'm gonna make another coil. I'm gonna make this coil a little bit longer. It's gonna be thinner and longer. The reason I'm doing that is because these are gonna be his arms. These are gonna be his bottom legs. Okay, so now we kind of do a mini claw where we pinch and pull apart to break this into 2 pieces. Whoop. You'll notice there's a little bit of a tail. It's okay, we can always make those into coils again. And do the same thing, that coil worked out better, to his arms. Now, if you have to, no worries. Make a coil again, turn it back into its original coil shape. And then we're gonna use some binder, and we're gonna stick the bottom legs on. They're gonna kind of stick out. They're gonna be kind of in a V shape. And then we'll do the arms. And the arms take just a little bit of extra work, but they're worth it. So there's his legs. And now his arms. We're gonna flatten the tops of our coils. We're gonna pinch it. Okay, so now it kind of looks like we're holding a shopping bag, or it's like a teardrop shape. I'm going to take some of this binder and I'm going to put it on his belly, kind of where his shoulders would go, more than his belly. And then I'm going to take that flat part and wrap it around his back so that he has a nice little foot in the front, and then the flat part wraps around to his back, and so it looks like it's a part of our bear. It's not sticking out and creating a weird angle or something. Okay, there we go. I have my teddy bear or polar bear all finished. Now, to finish up, you can grab a Sharpie and do the eyes. Okay, that's what I did to put in the details. I even gave him little tiny dots for his claws on his feet. You can do all of that if you want to. Remember, this isn't gonna last long. Do you see the poor bear is missing a leg already, and his back has a whole bunch of cracks. So, ooh, and I think he's about to lose something else if I keep messing with him. So these aren't meant to last. They're just meant for fun, okay? To learn new techniques. Maybe if you get really good at it and you really like sculpting, you guys can get some air dry clay at your house and then use that and make actual sculptures that will last. But for now, we're just having fun, making little creations. You can have like a whole party of little animals. You can even like tell a story if you want to. If you want to keep this clay for a little bit longer and play with it the next day on Monday, you could put it in a Ziploc baggie. It'll probably last for about a day. That's probably all the time you'll get. If you put it in a Ziploc baggie, squeeze out all the air, okay? Remember, if you pick up the clay and it's kind of falling apart on you, oh no, look at that, it's crumbling, that's okay. Just grab some of your binder, your hair conditioner, and mix it back in, okay? That's all you have to do, and you'll have some clay that's back to life and no longer dusty and gnarly and gross looking. So, I hope you all had fun. Remember to join us again next week. I will be teaching something new. I don't remember what that is right now. I think it's printmaking, but I'm not sure. You can go to our website for more details, check out our Facebook page, or call, email, or message the gallery. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for hanging out with me, and see you later.